The Fantasy Footballer Studio is brought to you by Amazon Prime. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Here we are.
Round 2.
December 17th, the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Semi-final week in the majority of fantasy leagues. But maybe more important than all of that, the Monday Night Football games are over. You don't have to watch
Oh, my gosh.
You don't have to watch them anymore.
You know, Mike, who is still sick, he is not recovered yet. TBD on his – we know nothing.
Mike is not he's a man of fewer words than a man of few words would be.
Yes. So apparently he is not at the communication stage of health yet. But one thing that he has said many times in the past is that Monday Night Football, these doubleheaders, is good for when you have a bad game because then you can switch over to the other one. He couldn't see this coming. He couldn't see both games being so unwatchable.
I believe he switched over to MASH reruns.
Yes. I
think that's what he
with a theme song like that.
Yeah, no, I think he was disappointed. I think that would have been a pick-me-up. Maybe you would have seen him today. But we don't know. We don't know when he'll be back.
Yeah, when we talk about those games, let's blitz them. I hope that you are in the position where you didn't need to come back to win. You know what I mean? Because if you really needed that comeback, you're like, I need so-and-so to score a lot. It's like, well, sorry. No,
it didn't happen. I mean, Jefferson did enough for your team. Aaron Jones did enough for your team last night in the 30-12 shellacking by the Vikings. Keenan got it going again.
Yeah, found the end zone.
A little bit Keenan.
DeAndre Swift did his thing where he doesn't practice all week, Soup's injured, and then gets 20 carries.
Yeah, kind of got it going at the end. And
in the end, okay, Keenan, 6 for 82 and a touchdown. Fine for fantasy. Like you said, Aaron Jones, 86 yards and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson, 73 yards and a touchdown. In the end, it was okay for fantasy, like if you didn't watch. But this was the most boring, non-competitive.
You knew both games were over instantly.
Worthless game.
That's the biggest part to me. Is it was like you knew that the Raiders couldn't beat the Falcons, even if the Falcons tried to beat themselves.
Oh, and they did.
Kirk Cousins had 112 yards and a pick and a touchdown.
That game was far worse than the Bears-Vikings. And please don't hear what I'm not saying. The Bears-Vikings game was terrible.
And how'd Darnell Mooney do?
Darnell Mooney, he did what they call a Cooper.
Oh, a Reed.
Yeah.
A cup.
A cup or an Amari. Either one. They both goosed this week, and so did Darnell Mooney. It was obviously very, very disappointing if you were relying on him.
They threw on first down 1 out of 24 times?
I was going to bring that up. Running on first down, 1st and 10, which is a very common play, probably about 40% of the time to 50% of the time.
Nothing wrong with it in moderation.
Nothing wrong with running on 1st and 10. However, less effective than passing on 1st and 10. If I was a coach, I would certainly be passing 70% of the time on 1st and 10 and probably on 2nd and 10. They threw the ball one time on 1st and 10. I've never, unless it's like a crazy weather game, Snowball, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Well, it's one of the best ways that I've seen strategically, and I've been around the game for a long time. If you run on first down, that is guaranteed to not be a pass by Kirk Cousins.
Or an interception by Kirk Cousins.
Right. He can't do either of those if he doesn't get the opportunity to.
To be fair, the one time they did throw on 1st and 10 was an interception.
It was. The only time.
They're like, lesson learned.
Kirk Cousins.
Dude, he is.
Is he going to start next year?
No.
It's over.
Every week you've got to ask the question, is he going to start next week? And right now they're pretty vehement that he is their leader. He is their captain, Kirk, but he's done. D-U-N. Like, he sucks. It's a shame. This show's always been a huge fan of Captain Kirk back when he was rookie behind RG3.
Firing phasers before Baker had lasers.
Absolutely. And, I was rooting for him. I've been excited for the Atlanta Falcons team as a whole. The division is winnable. They added some good defensive pieces, and their defense is legit with their weapons on offense, with Mooney and London, and I'll even throw Pitts out there, but Bijan and Algier. Like, this should be a much better team than it is, but Kirk Cousins is late-stage Peyton Manning. Yeah, I mean,
he's got $300 million to comfort him at night. If you're a Brock Bowers manager going into a semifinal because you survived his 3 for 35 night, you need to get on your knees and pray that it's not Desmond Ridder again. 39 passing attempts for Desmond Ridder, ending up in 3 for 35 for your superstar tight end. It's not that it's much better with Aiden O'Connell either.
Oh, it's much better with Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, this is like a factorial thing. This is like Gardner Minshew was much better than Aiden O'Connell for Brock Bowers.
Sure, yeah.
And then but Aiden O'Connell's much better than Desmond Ridder, and Desmond Ridder's barely better than
me.
You.
Yes, correct. Yeah. I don't think I could get the ball to Brock Bowers once. And maybe once. Maybe I could get him the ball once. So I'd say Desmond Ridder's about 2 passes better than I am.
Okay, yeah, and I'm glad we broke that down. And we had an injury to Sincere McCormick. That was a monstrous, significant situation for fantasy managers because he left with an injury. It went to Madison after that. He did nothing with the 7 carries he had before the injury. And so, this is one of those things where, like, in a few years, we'll probably be saying, like, do you remember that guy, Sincere McCormick, that was relevant for, like, a week?
I doubt we'll remember his name.
Yeah, probably not. Moving on.
Welcome to Difference Makers, presented by IAMS Pet Food.
Well, I didn't realize that you had picked out a difference maker as well, Jason.
Yeah. I'll let you lead.
Yeah, no,
I'll back cleanup.
No, I mean, it'd be bad in second.
You're going to load the bases because you're talking about a handful of players. Is that acceptable?
No, that's
reference?
Good. You walked right into that. Well done.
Yeah, I'm going to walk off too.
Okay.
Another one. I'm on baseball fire, baby.
It's pretty good. I
got finger guns.
I like it. JETS, Jets. We talked yesterday about on Ready to Roll incentives for players. We are talking about incentives for teams coming down the stretch. I talked about Houston. They don't have a real shot to change their playoff position. It's what freaks me out about Joe Mixon this week is that, Joe Mixon had another one of those hip drop tackles happen to him where that's where he missed 3 games earlier in the year. So as far as we know right now, he's going to be active. But if he was banged up and I was Houston, I wouldn't play him. So we talk about team incentives. We talk about player incentives. I'm going to talk about a pride incentive. I'm going to talk about a trend that is happening right now, and this is difference makers. So I thought about this, and to me, it is the Jets. It's Aaron Rodgers has been a top 10 quarterback each of the last 2 weeks. I was so close to throw in Rodgers, Adams, Wilson, and against the Jags last week in our DraftKings lineup. I was a coward. I didn't do it. Fortunately, still am not the shame, mercifully. But believe it or not, Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams right now are top. They are 2 of the top 12 fantasy wideouts.
It's wild. I saw that. I saw that yesterday. That right now, both wide receivers for the Jets who have really stunk it up, not won games. Aaron Rodgers has looked, like a bad version of himself and an old version of himself. You're disappointed with the offense as a whole, and then it's like, wait, both these guys are on the season. They are a wide receiver 1.
And Rodgers in his last 4 games, that's a full season pace of 4,234. That's a 34-4 touchdown to interception ratio. That's more vintage Rodgers. We don't know how banged up he was, but the matchups, the Rams, and then Buffalo, who, yes, they win, but they give up 40 a game.
Well, that's because the other team just has to go hard after points. I mean, when you're playing against the Bills right now, you play. You know, it's kind of like years past when you played against the Chiefs. You would go for it on fourth when maybe usually you wouldn't as a team, as a head coach. You're just like, I know I've got to try to put up 30 or 40 if I want any chance to win, and it's great when you are facing an offense like that.
But they've been bad, and in terms of giving up total points, and I think that Rodgers and Adams are a couple of guys at this stage of their career that, look, you're not playing for a playoff spot, but there's a lot of pride there. There's a lot of pride in showing some signs of what they were capable of on the offensive side, and we're seeing it. And I think they're going to be difference makers down the stretch, playing the Rams at home, playing the Bills on the road, where the defense has been awful. I mean,
Davante Adams has literally said before, I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before, where it's like, I don't want to abuse the quote. It wasn't as egregious as what I'm going to say, but it was basically, wins aren't the only thing that matters to me.
Legacy.
I care about my legacy.
Yeah. He cares about being a legend on the field.
He wants to go to the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? And right now he's on the cusp, but I don't think he's
he's in an ideal situation where he literally can focus on himself because there's no playoffs.
Exactly.
So,
that's what I'm saying. Like incentive.
Yeah.
Player incentive is, hey, Rodgers, I want to go crazy. Get me more yards to move up the list of all-timers and touchdowns, and just focus on me. And why not? What else are they playing for if not that? If you look at his yardage recently, like this last week was insane, 198 yards. But the week prior was 109 yards. Two games before that, 71. 2 games before that, 91. Like they are connecting. And, you know, that's a long stretch. You take the first 2 games out when he got to the Jets, when he was just getting integrated, and we thought it would be quicker because of the history with Rodgers. But if you take those 2 games out, you look at the last 6 games, he's on pace for 1,600 yards.
Yeah, it's vintage.
120 receptions, 14 touchdowns. So, yeah, he looks like a difference maker down the stretch.
So that's I'm sure Al Borland really thrilled to hear that, as he has Davante Adams rostered, made the trade mid-season, and I applaud it. We're a keeper league. We have players that, even when they're injured, they have value. He managed to turn the Brandon Ayuk injury into Davante Adams for the remainder of the season.
It was a great move. Good job, Al. And Owl, I am officially 100%, like, you know how, like, in the political season, there's like, you have my endorsement.
Oh, are you doing a formal endorsement?
I am officially formally endorsing. Al Borland has my vote for League of Record champion this year. I will be rooting for you, young man.
Thank you, sir. I accept the nomination.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm thankful. I would do the same in your position. Now, move on to your difference maker.
Yeah. This will matter. The real difference maker, and we have buried the lead until whatever this is, 13 minutes into the show.
Yeah, this was like we didn't get to talk about it yesterday.
Jahmyr Gibbs is this year's difference maker.
Thank you, Santa.
Jahmyr Gibbs is in 100% of playoffs. I've gone, I'm in 8 leagues.
Did you go and look?
I went and looked. Every single league, Jahmyr Gibbs is in the playoffs.
Oh, that's because he's the running back 3 on the year.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like he just happens to be on the teams that made it past the first round. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is still in the playoffs.
Okay.
And so this is the guy who's going to win championships. Jahmyr Gibbs, we have seen him without Monty in the past, and he was a workhorse type of running back. He is the running back 3 on the season while sharing time with a running back 1 on the season. The amount of touchdowns, you go – like, I would not doubt if this week, the DraftKings Sportsbook line for multi-touchdowns for Gibbs is minus 110. Like, I feel like that's assumed at this point because David Montgomery's touchdown goes to him. You're going down the stretch in the 3-week playoff run, and the crazy thing is sometimes you worry, okay, well, maybe Craig Reynolds will be far more involved. It's not just going to all go to Gibbs. And while he won't be 100% of the snaps, I mean, we've got Dan Campbell coming out saying he's got to be ready. He's our workhorse now. Like they've done this in the past. We've seen it. The coach has come out and said he's got to be ready for the workload. It's going to happen. He's going to be the biggest difference maker the rest of the playoffs.
You know what's a slight encouragement there too is the fact that there are now 3 teams in the NFC at 12-2, and there's one bye.
Yeah, so this is not going to be they've locked it up by week 17, and in the championship they're going to take an easy approach. You've got Chicago and San Francisco as the final 2 matchups in most people's leagues. Minnesota in week 18, if you are in one of those dumb leagues that plays championships in week 18, please change that in the offseason. But, yeah, Chicago and San Francisco, both on the road. I expect them to be essentially a top 3 back both weeks.
All right, that was Difference Makers presented by IAMS Pet Food. When you choose IAMS, you can see the difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Feed IAMS and see a visible difference.
News and notes from around the league. Presented by USAA Insurance.
Clearly, Mike has not discovered the IAMS for people yet. Because
no, he'd be healthy.
Not a healthy coat right now.
He needs 25 days.
David Montgomery is out for the year. That was the news we missed. It broke moments after releasing yesterday's show. Out for the year.
So it's a torn MCL, meaning he won't be back for the playoffs. If they make the Super Bowl, he will not be back. The timeline should be fine for week 1 next year. We'll learn a lot more in the offseason. We'll see his recovery. We'll see him later, but not anymore this season. And it's a
devastating blow. I know there are teams with buys. Like maybe Montgomery didn't get you through last week with that performance, but I know Kyle the Borgogan, he's got a team on a bye.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't very happy about this, and it's because Montgomery's been so solid.
He has been unbelievable. Until this last week when he got injured, he had only had 1 single game outside of the top 24 because he gets a touchdown every week.
Derek Carr probably not back before the end of the season. We got word that his broken hand, it's a few weeks away. Alvin Kamara undergoing more tests on the injured groin.
That's not a great sign, and he's Monday Night Football. So I know in one of the leagues where I had a bye, and I'm going into round 2 as the favorite. Alvin Kamara is a big piece that got me there. You figure if you don't have Derek Carr back, that means to me that you don't have Chris Olave back, he was eligible this past week, and they've said everything's on the table still. He could return at any time. But, like, if Derek Carr's not back, why would you throw Chris Olave out there?
You just paid Alvin Kamara. Why would you put him out there?
Right.
You're waiting for him for the next season.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. I mean, if
you're going into Lambeau
if he's
on
got
Monday
an
night.
Injured groin, yeah, you want to go into the freezing cold and see how that's going to hold up. I'm really scared about Kamara this week.
I have made, like, in the one team that I have in the semifinals with him, he's on the bench. I'm not expecting to have him. I'm not expecting to play him, and I'm not sure he's worth the wait in this Green Bay matchup.
I'm sure he's worth the wait if he were to play. But that's the thing, is that you have to have a pivot option. Like, I've got Brian Robinson
How do they give
Jr.
him a full allotment of snaps, though?
Well, I don't think they'll give him a full allotment of snaps. That doesn't mean he's not going to catch 6 or 7 passes, though. Even in limited work, I expect he would. Usually when you've got a player of his caliber and the workload is limited, it's really snaps that's limited, and it's like when they're on the field, it's like, okay, Kamara's on the field, let's utilize him and go to him. You see like the targets per route run just go north. Kendre Miller obviously would be the guy to play, but without the other offensive pieces, you don't expect a lot of touchdown opportunities. So I was saying, I've got Brian Robinson Jr. against Philly. Not excited about that matchup at all.
No.
But I feel like I have to start him Sunday morning because I don't see a world – like I feel like
I'm doing the exact same thing with Ramondre.
I'm
playing Ramondre Sunday morning instead of Kamara on Monday.
There is a world where we will know he is out by Sunday. We'll know, okay, they've decided – he's not going to play.
Yeah,
this
well,
week.
The practice reports.
I don't think there's any world where we will know definitively, like, he's practicing in full all week. He's good to go. He's not on the injury report. Like, I don't see that as a possibility.
I really, yeah. This is one of the biggest stories heading into the semifinal week is certainty on Alvin Kamara, and then by extension certainty on Kendre Miller as a start. He could get a lot of checkdowns. He can catch the football.
I mean, I've said this for years. I loved him coming out of college. The issue has been his health, but he's a really good player. Kendre is great, and if Derek Carr were there and Kamara was out, Kendre would be like a top 10 option for me. But without Derek Carr and Chris Olave,
you could be in a Sincere McCormick situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Joe Mixon talked about it, the hip drop tackle. D'Amico Ryan says he came out fine. Joe will be fine. It just freaks me out, man, because Joe Mixon.
That's a fart in the wind, man. Don't worry about D'Amico Ryan saying anything. That's irrelevant. Saying he's going to be fine means nothing.
You're saying that we need to wait and see what the practice reports say.
And see what the ankle does, because he was able to go back in the game, but the last time when he got injured, he went back in that game and then missed 3 weeks.
Yep.
And like you said, they're playing for nothing.
Yep.
So
not great.
They're going to the playoffs. And if they're going to the playoffs, nothing helps them more than a healthy Joe Mixon. Honestly, if I were the head coach, if he was pretty okay, I want him to have fresh legs for the playoffs.
Houston is sitting at 9-5. There is a chance that they could take the 2 seed from Buffalo.
Yeah.
I mean,
in your bra.
There's 2. Well, I mean, yeah, Buffalo would have to lose. You ready for this schedule for Buffalo?
Uh-huh.
New England.
Oh, okay.
This week. And then the Jets. And then New England.
Okay. So they've got to who was the fighter that Mike Tyson lost to way back in the day when he was like a
Buster Douglas?
Yes, Buster Douglas. So they've got to parlay 3 Buster Douglases in a row. Not happening.
No. So that's freaky. That's a scary one to me. And we'll be monitoring it. Patrick Mahomes might be out in Week 16. They still have a 2-game lead on the 1 seed. By the way, Houston's the Saturday game this week. We have multiple Saturday games this week.
And
then the
nice.
Christmas game the next week for championship week. But isn't there matchup this week?
Wait, there's a Christmas?
I mean, it's Kansas City.
There's a Christmas game? Is it Christmas on Wednesday this year?
Mm-hmm.
They're doing Wednesday football?
It's Christmas football.
Yeah, it's Wednesday football, too.
Well, it's both.
ChristmasFootball.com.
We own that, right?
I'm checking.
We do.
All right.
We own them all, baby. This is where the money is made.
Yeah.
We license that out.
A lot of people don't really.
Bango.
They think that they support us by going to Join the Foot, getting all of our premium
the
tools,
UDK.
all of our waiver wire tools.
We got mini helmets now at shopballers.com.
On shopballers.com, the replicas of what's on the set. They think that's not where we make our money.
We make our money licensing all of the somethingfootball.com domains.
WednesdayFootball.com, TuesdayNightFootball.com, ChristmasFootball.com.
Yep.
It's GroinIndex.com.
Millions of dollars.
That's where
GroinIndex.com.
It just prints money. GroinIndex.com it just prints money.
Back my bank account.
Right.
Goes up.
Yeah.
Geno Smith, hopeful to practice this week. Al is having a good time back there. Jalen Waddle will not need surgery on his knee. Nothing major in question for the week.
Matthew Betts, our injury expert, says likely a sprained MCL, could miss 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is there's a lot of stuff we're monitoring this week, and it's Tuesday, and it's waiver day, and we'll talk about options if you need them, and then we will keep track of stuff and let you know what to do this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Waddle is the type where when we don't have the information right now, I'm fine dropping him. Like if you need to make a waiver wire maneuver.
Yeah, if I told you he was healthy right now, how confident would you be to put him in your lineup next week?
Mildly?
Yeah, barely.
Barely?
All right. I think that is it by way of news. Is there anything else, Al? You got anything for us?
I think you got it.
Any other of my players on my roster getting stronger heading into the semifinal? Or just
hopefully not Mixon.
Well, that's unkind.
Marshawn Lloyd, bring that name up for the 100th time. This is the new Kendre Miller, talented player who's never played football. But
you're bringing his name up.
Yeah, because he is now eligible to come back. He was healthy and came back.
Just stop.
Then he got appendicitis, man. It's not his fault.
It's so dumb.
He had an emergency appendectomy, and now he's had a month to recover from that.
So he gets his name mentioned because he's got his appendix? No appendix?
No, he gets his
We
name
don't
mentioned.
own noappendix.com with all the guys without appendixes.
He gets his name mentioned because I think he'll play football this week for like the second time in his life.
No, he won't.
You don't think he's playing this week?
I mean, active or not, he's the third, fourth string on this team. I mean, Chris Brooks has looked good.
No, he hasn't.
Okay. All right. Yeah, the unplayed Marshawn Lloyd. To take it from Jason, his start of the week. That was today's news and notes presented by USAA Insurance. Learn more at usaa.com/insurance. We'll take a break. We'll talk about waivers not named Marshawn Lloyd. All right, here we go.
Welcome to the Waiver Wire.
I am still, like, this moment, cleaning up hair from that
wig.
That wig. What was that? The troll or
we were both trolls.
Gnomes. It was like
gnomes. Yeah. And that beard was.
It just was
$2 on Temu.
A magical shedding masterpiece. I still find the hair everywhere.
You're not far off on the price, and it actually came in a 10-pack. So we have 8 more back there.
$2 for 10 wigs. I'd like one wig for $10 that doesn't fall apart.
I think what they did on that wig is they took, like, they're like just trying to find a way to use leftover product to make stuff, and they're like, if we take this asbestos and don't have it pink, can we turn it into a wig? I mean, that stuff was awful.
Yeah, we suffered for multiple weeks. All right, running backs. Now, I am on first glance not seeing Lloyd in this list, but I am seeing Jerome Ford at the tippy top of this list, who has a magnificent matchup, who, in my opinion, on film, watching him every week, has looked like not just a better runner than Nick Chubb, but a pretty good runner receiver all year long. So Jerome Ford.
He had a 62-yard breakaway run this last week, and we've seen him, when given the opportunity, be a very solid back. I don't look at Jerome Ford as one of those players that because of the injury, he's going to get so much work that he's a top 5 guy. This week with the matchup, with the over-under, with what I expect to happen offensively, I could see him being a top 12 running back, but I don't see a world where he's not top 24. Like, to me, he's a safe RB2. He's the top of my waiver wire rankings. I think there are some other guys that might have more upside should the starter be injured, but we know Chubb is out. That's where Jerome Ford needs to be number 1 to me, because it's definitive as of this moment.
You also need to remember that before Chubb returned, when he was more of the full-time back, he was on pace for 72 receptions on the season. I think it's going to be Dorian Thompson-Robinson for multiple reasons. I don't think it does the team any good to put Winston out there anymore. I also believe that, if you don't come out and basically say, hey, Jameis is our guy, right after the game, more often than not, it's not that guy. So that can help the running game. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson can help the running game.
Oh, I think it would be monumentally disastrous for Jerome Ford if DTR was the quarterback. I don't think it'll help the running game in the slightest.
I don't think the numbers
back
that up.
If you're saying help the running game, as in his yards per carry is higher, sure. If you're talking helps the running game as far as total yards, total offensive output, total touchdown opportunities, no way.
No, I disagree. I think
so. You think touchdown opportunities are higher with Dorian Thompson-Robinson than with Jameis Winston?
No, I think they're pretty equal.
Because you've been putting something in your coffee, young man, if you believe that. It's not cough syrup.
Jameis Winston was on base for 700-plus attempts. The offensive system and the focus on the running game, which is what made the Browns running backs valuable for years, was predicated on them not throwing the ball 700 times a year. And it's not like Jameis Winston. I mean, what they scored? 6 points or something last week? I mean, they have not been moving the ball down into scoring range. So to me, I'm indifferent on the total touchdown situation there. And I think they hand the ball off. I think it's a game plan built not around Jerry Jeudy, but built around Jerome Ford. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the offense will score more points, but I'm saying that he'll get more opportunities than he would have with Winston.
Yeah, I understand, and I believe that you are correct when it comes to rushing opportunities. I value the passing game work from Ford a little bit more and the scoring opportunities. Regardless, either one that's there, Jerome Ford should be a top 24 running back this week. I just believe that the total reception count and touchdowns would be higher with Winston, who I still think, I'm not bullish, but I would still put it, 55% chance that it's Jameis. I do expect that we'll find out early in the week, though.
It's unfortunate that we've gone the direction we did with Winston. I mean, they scored 7 points against Kansas City, 14 against Pittsburgh the week before.
But those are also great defenses that oftentimes shut down teams. Like Kansas City and Pittsburgh, we worried about those matchups weeks and weeks earlier.
Certainly.
This is Cincinnati Bengals. Like, if we get Jameis Winston against Cincinnati, now I don't know the weather yet in Cincinnati. This time of year, you got to care about that. But if it's clear, oh man, oh my baby, I want it. I want Cedric Tillman back. We'll talk about him when we get to wide receivers. I want all of the pieces in that 48-point over/under as of right now.
You're still very Winston bullish.
I am still very Winston bullish for fantasy football.
I'm fine with Judy, but beyond that, I mean, we just saw Will Levis get benched against Cincinnati last week, and I don't know. He's playing some pretty crappy football.
As of right now, only 2% chance of rain, 6-mile-an-hour winds, which is A-okay. All right, let's go. Come on,
I imagine
Winston.
Cincinnati, I mean, we probably have a line already. I'm guessing they are where's the game?
In Cincinnati.
8.5-point favorites?
Oh, that can't be.
7.
Told you. I probably would have gone like 6.5, 5.5.
Yeah,
right.
so that
So
implied
split the
point
difference.
total, a lot of that's going to Cincinnati. But
Cleveland has an implied team total of 20.5 points right now.
yeah. Tajay Spears,
So that's the next big name.
he scored twice last week. Tony Pollard re-injured his ankle. We don't have any further reports on Pollard. He's been playing through injury. He's been finding a way to start games even when it didn't seem like he was going to, so that could happen again, a la DeAndre Swift for the Bears missing practices. But Spears,
If you knew for sure, if we got definitive, like Pollard goes to IR, I would put Spears above Ford. I think Spears is a more explosive player, will be very involved in the receiving game. I believe he caught 6 passes last week.
they're very similar because but it could be DTR and Mason Rudolph, which is the most likely.
But the difference there is that I think Mason Rudolph is actually an upgrade. I think DTR is actually a downgrade. So I'm not worried about who the starting quarterback is for Tajay. If it's Will Levis, great. He'll do some crazy stuff, but crazy stuff often makes your offense have to, Jameis. And then if it's Rudolph, they tend to score more points with him.
Kendre Miller, we talked about him already in the context of Kamara. If we get more, it's hard. I would go hard in the paint for all three of those guys if they were somehow out there, which, by the way, they wouldn't be mentioned on the show if they were rostered in 50% or more of leagues. They're not. Probably a little bit higher in playoff situations right now, but Kendre Miller's still 16% rostered, and I would throw everything at picking up those three players. Put them in the order you think is most suitable for your roster, but bid everything on those three guys if they're out there.
100%. They need to be rostered. Also, take a look at your opponent. You need to pay attention. They might have lost Kamara. They might have lost David Montgomery and really be needing this player. There comes a time, and that time is now, where if you've got your backup, you've got your insurance running back, for your star who is currently healthy, and you're like, I can't drop my insurance. What happens if for the championship game, my guy gets injured? I need him. But if your opponent needs to play one of these three running backs, and I personally, I'll put 4 because I think Alexander Madison, but we could talk about him in a second. But if your opponent needs a starting running back for this week, drop your backups and block them, even if you don't need them. It is more valuable for you getting to the championship than your backup right now.
Yeah, the value of the backup is diminishing exponentially right now.
Yeah, you have 1 week of insurance. That's it.
Yeah. And And even if you're not blocking, I would be dropping the backups for these guys who might have prolonged value.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Ford, Tajay, Kendre, they are probably more valuable than your backup next week as well.
What is is Ty Johnson some sort of mirage, or
Yes.
is this a new?
I don't understand. I mean, look, Amari Cooper went from 14 targets to 0. Ty Johnson has 2 weeks in a row where he's been involved in the passing game. Now, 2 weeks ago it was only 2 receptions, but he caught a 41-yard reception for a touchdown. This last week, still only 7 total opportunities. Now, he was 5 for 114 in the passing game. That's great, but I don't think you could bank on that. I wouldn't be even picking up Ty Johnson. He's the third string running back on this team.
I don't know what he is, man. I don't know what he is. Is he a third string running back?
I believe he's a third string running back.
Is he the number 1 passing back? I mean, it's probably an anomaly. What's happened the last 2 weeks?
There are too many pieces in Buffalo that can score the touchdowns. They've kind of started using him a little bit like Khalil Shakir the last really not even 2 weeks ago. Just this last week, they kind of utilized him in that screen game the same way that they use Khalil Shakir. But the point is they can use Khalil Shakir. They can use other options. Let's talk about the Raiders running back because Sincere McCormick got injured. I don't think I've tried to look this morning. Kyle, if you can vet and see if there's any more definitive news on the ankle injury. But if he's out, and I think he will be out, it looked pretty bad. You've got Amir Abdullah and Alexander Madison. I would personally put Alexander Madison ahead. He's going to get more volume, even if he's not the pass-catching guy. And they play against Jacksonville, so the matchup is okay for a bad offense. I think he would be next up after the 3-pack of Ford, Spears, and Miller.
I think Gainwell might be in play as well as an ad. Kenneth Gainwell looked good in the passing game, and we really don't know how banged up Saquon is. If you are Philly, you've got to make a decision on what's most important. He's got a lot of tread on the tires this year. Saquon does.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have him for the playoffs, you're in trouble. So as the practice reports go on, Kenneth Gainwell, in our league of records, somebody threw him on the roster Sunday morning. I believe was it you, Jason?
Yeah, it was. Doesn't matter because Owl kicked me out.
And Barkley's not talking about his injury, but he missed the second quarter, and he only handled a little bit of work over the second half.
And he looked bad.
Something looked wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you look at just, his efficiency on the course of the season, Saquon, and you're like, man, he's just so good every game. And then all of a sudden, last game when he got injured, he's sitting there at 3.4 a carry, not getting it done. If you look at his game logs going back, 10.4 a carry, 4.9, 5.9, 4.7, 5.6, 9.8, 4.7, 6. He's just been unstoppable. And then he was clearly not just shut down by Pittsburgh. He was injured. He was sub 4 a carry and looked bad on the field.
Wide receivers that you want to keep your eyes open for, to me, is Jalen McMillan is the headline.
Really?
Yeah, because
well, look at you.
Because look, we're coming in here every week and we're repeating names that don't matter at the top of the waiver list. So I want, if I'm going into the fantasy playoffs, I think that Jalen McMillan matters. We've said Huge for 1,000 weeks because guess what? He just keeps getting dropped and picked up and dropped and picked up. I'm not saying if Huge is out there, you shouldn't pick him up. I just think
you would pick Huge up over McMillan, right? I mean, Huge has been good pretty much most of the season, other than his primetime dropopotamus fest.
No,
you would rather start McMillan.
No, because I'm living in the vacuum, the single vacuum of a 1 week situation, and I prefer Jalen McMillan this week than I do the Denver matchup for Huge, where Ladd McConkey's the target hog, and it's a touchdown prayer for Huge, and I think McMillan. We saw what Godwin did in the offense. He's finally getting the opportunity. 6 for 75 and a touchdown. And guess what? We know what Huge is. We don't yet know what Jalen McMillan's potential is.
It is the right approach to take a 1 week look. And if you say, I like McMillan
against
this
Dallas?
week against Dallas more. Dallas is I need to look at the last few weeks.
Trayvon Diggs is out for the season now. I mean, this is a huge opportunity for Tampa. They're going to score a lot of points. Controlled weather environment. Not up in Denver, figuring it out, a team that's kind of going down. That's just my.
Is this like another McMillan touchdown guarantee? Is this what?
He barely has room to score more touchdowns. He's scoring so many.
Yeah. If I'm
the highest over under of the week, by the way, and so I'm McMillan huge, and then beyond that,
So I like if we're taking a 1 week approach, I really like Rashad Bateman. It is again, it's hot and cold. He's not a volume play, but if you look back at this season, I mean, he has pretty much at least every other week gotten it done. He's got 7 touchdowns on the course of the season. He is he's definitely getting bomb passing attempts almost every week. This upcoming matchup against Pittsburgh with maybe no TJ Watt or a banged up TJ Watt, they're at home. The weather as of right now looks good. I like Bateman. I think I would rather take the shot at Bateman than McMillan, who's really only had two good games in his career, right? They've been the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's a rookie. So we'll disagree there. I mean, I feel like the baseline for McMillan is going to be higher. Bateman is definitely a home run threat. He's had 0 catches against Philly the week before, but then last week had the 2 touchdowns. So I'm still McMillan, man.
Sure. You also have the easy matchup.
We don't agree a lot today.
I think we agree on Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, he's going to be really good.
There you go.
What about the Packers wide receivers? You had Dobbs get the dub touchdowns this last week. You're at home against an easy Saints matchup. I feel like you should have some passing touchdowns there.
Watson over Dobbs.
Yeah, I would take Watson over Dobbs as well. And Watson might be better than Bateman. I will say McMillan, if you look at the path, he's got a good quarterback. He's got a good matchup. And when you have rookies that start to break out at the end of their rookie season, it can come in stretches. I'm not saying he is Amon-Ra St. Brown or the next coming, but we saw that with rookie season Amon-Ra, where it took a while, and then towards the end of the year, it happened week after week after week. And you don't have the time. This is the playoffs. You don't have the time to find out. You've got to call your shot. And so you're saying that it's going to be sticky. And honestly, we've seen Cade Otton kind of disappear. They need McMillan. I think you've warmed me up to Jalen McMillan being higher up my personal waiver rankings.
I just want a shot at, the way Ladd McConkey's come on in the back part of the season. The fact is, this is the Baker Mayfield offense, that the running game is banged up and hurt. That's the way I lean now. None of these are not must starts. Nobody in this wide receiver category is a guaranteed must start, although I do consider Huge, McMillan, and probably Bateman as flex-worthy plays. Another name that you have to bring up is Malik Washington in Miami, because Malik Washington, it's a San Francisco matchup, but he already caught 5 passes last week. They let go of Odell Beckham, and Jalen Waddle is injured. And so you're looking at this situation where, we caught, 3 more passes than Tyreek did?
Yeah, another rookie who
and his snap count will be in the 70s and 80s next week.
Yeah, he'll get a lot more opportunities this week. I think a near must start, but you don't even know for sure if it's capable when you're making your transaction on the waiver wire. But Cedric Tillman's still available in half the leagues. He's missed 3 games with a concussion. He was practicing last week, seemed like he was going to play, was not active. However, if Jameis is
only
there,
Jameis.
Yes.
Only if it's Jameis.
Not for both of us. We're in agreement
because it's been 5 weeks.
We're just agreeing all over the place.
Super simpatico.
Yeah, if Jameis is back and Cedric Tillman is active against the Bengals, I mean, he goes from possible flex to me to almost a must start.
My dart throw,
our dart throw.
Oh, because you
fireball.
Nope.
All right.
Never
mind. Shut up.
No. My dart throw. Don't be surprised if he has a huge week and you didn't see it coming and he's still on waivers next week. Is Jalen Coker of the Carolina Panthers? That's Coker. Al,
as I've always said,
as you looked up and verified. This is the deep threat for Carolina. Adam Thielen's going to be your underneath and your dink and dunk, but you've lost Xavier Legette, and he's not really a deep threat type of guy, anyways. And Jalen Coker is. Jalen Coker is a physical force. He played 80+% of snaps. He had 4 for 110 and a touchdown against Dallas. And if you want to take a shot, because you are just ravaged by injuries, that'd be your guy.
Yeah, and I was going to throw out Fireball Jones, a.k.a. Tim
he keeps
Patrick.
scoring.
Well, the last couple weeks, he's not only scored, but he's been involved in the target pecking order, 7 targets, 8 targets. Now, the last 2 weeks, these are shootouts with Green Bay and Buffalo. I do think it comes down a little bit against Chicago. In Chicago, they probably won't need to throw it as much, kind of like what you saw from Sam Darnold last night. But Tim Patrick, in deep leagues is available.
Jason, I wonder what the kind of next piece of the Lions offense is going to be without Montgomery. Like, is there going to be more involvement from a secondary option or more involvement from Laporta? Like, I think Laporta could be more of a focal point where, look, you have to understand this team isn't going to just – they're not just going to run Montgomery packages with Gibbs every play. They're going to do what is in their best, advantage when it comes to structuring this offense. We used to know what they do. They go out with their huge, giant personnel and run Montgomery. That's not how they're going to use Gibbs. They may use him sometimes like that, but they're going to kind of conform to the personnel that they have, and Laporta is a weapon that's been waiting in the wings. Maybe it's some Tim Patrick. Maybe it's Jameson Williams. I think we're going to see some different stuff. Maybe it's more Jared Goff in general because
I think it will be more Jared Goff. Jared Goff, to me, goes the next couple weeks as more passing touchdowns than rushing touchdowns.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll jump into tight ends where we agree on everybody. All right, we're into the tight ends, and we agree on everyone because
there is no one.
There's not really anybody.
I mean, Brenton Strange is widely available. He was targeted on 30% of his routes, which makes sense because he had 11 targets with Mac Jones. This is the tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars in replacement of Evan Ingram. If you're in a full PPR league, okay.
Every target for the Jacksonville went to Brian Thomas or Brenton Strange last week with Mac Jones. It's a great matchup against Las Vegas, but I have gone through this exercise. I don't think that I'm going to sit Otten down for Strange even if I got him on the waivers.
Okay, so that is the level. That is the exact level because most people who are in the playoffs,
I don't think I'm going to do that.
They have a good tight end. You didn't just lose Evan Ingram and you're in the second round of the playoffs. Like you have an answer. I think that the people out there that don't are maybe the Njoku manager, had a bye and is still in it, or you're dealing with a Cade Otton level replacement. And if you're not going from Cade Otton to Brenton Strange,
I'm just going to bank. I've been through this whole exercise. I knew bringing it up would submarine any attempts of me getting Brenton Strange on the waiver wire in our league of record to fill in for Cade Otton. I've been through the exercise, and to me, it's the highest over-under of the week in the Tampa game. Who's going to score a touchdown?
Right.
I mean, Brenton Strange, if I told you a player got 11 receptions in a game, you'd be like, that's a dominant week. This was not a dominant fantasy week.
It should at least be 100 yards. 11 receptions at 100 yards would be pretty inefficient.
And it was 73 yards. He didn't score. The odds of them scoring are low. I'm not saying Brenton Strange is going to have a bad week and he's unstartable. I'm just saying I'm going to go with the odds that Baker throws 3 to 4 touchdowns. And I'm just going to hope that one of them is to Cade Otton. It's not like they haven't taken shots to him. I'm just going to hope that that's the situation.
Sure.
And it sucks.
Outside of that, you got Stone Smart on the waivers.
He's the next man up for me.
Yeah, I mean,
because of untapped upside that we don't know about.
Yeah, but the problem there is the Denver matchup, divisional. Stone Smart is the replacement of Will Dissly for the Los Angeles Chargers. He looked pretty good. He got overthrown on a couple balls. He actually could have had a pretty big game last week. Unfortunately, him and Herbert weren't quite in sync yet. So I think as the season goes along, Stone Smart is someone worth paying attention to. It'd be really hard to start him in round 2 of the playoffs against Denver, though.
Smart him. It'd be hard to smart him, right?
Busted.
Yeah.
Sorry, bud.
You weren't really.
No, I wasn't feeling that one.
Well, I mean, I don't feel any of these tight ends, so I shouldn't have even taken a shot.
Yeah, let's go to defenses then.
What do you like there?
The Arizona Cardinals had a very down week this last week. However, so did Bryce Young. Bryce Young kind of pumpkined a little bit, and they're pretty available. The Cardinals defense on the course of this season has actually been better than you think for fantasy purposes, and Bryce Young has been known to throw some bad-looking balls.
You know, that's going to be my defense this week in the semifinals. Cardinals are a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde on defense, but I'm going to just hope that even if, you know, if Bryce plays well for 3 quarters, one bad quarter from Bryce could be enough to support a good performance. My favorite defense of the week is the Packers. It's gotten even better.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no Kamara, no Carr, no
Yeah.
Olave, nobody. So
yeah, they're playing against the rat tail in Lambeau. If you've got the Packers defense available to be picked up, they absolutely need to be picked up.
hopefully you got him last week like Al Borland did.
If for some reason,
Man, I love his team. Al's team is so good.
it really is.
It's like
That's
no wrong.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
That's the man of the people over
So
there. Everyone's rooting for you, Al.
You endorsed him.
Yeah.
And so when the rally happens, you go up there and you give a speech and stuff?
Absolutely. Am I allowed some speech time?
Of course.
Oh, thanks, bud.
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't root for a guy that's never won one?
Yeah, I mean, that is part of it. Like, I'm definitely rooting for him to get his first rather than you to get your second in a row. If Will Levis is announced as starter,
Sometimes it's a compliment. Sometimes it's a backhanded compliment.
Obviously, all teams can be played against Will Levis. That worked really well for me this last week, throwing the Bengals' awful defense against Will Levis, and they should have had 2 pick sixes.
It'll be Mason Rudolph.
I think it will be Mason Rudolph as well.
And then the Raiders against Jacksonville and Jacksonville against the Raiders. Both directions kind of work, although I wouldn't do it with the Raiders because I'd play Jacksonville defense if I'm desperate, but I wouldn't do the Raiders defense against the – did you watch the Mac Jones highlights? Did you watch the Mac Jones –
Are there?
The bravado?
Oh, yes.
This game?
The like post good play body language type of stuff.
I believe that Mac Jones is doing the one thing that you should be doing in your situation. If you're a backup quarterback, by the way, when you say, are there any highlights, he was a top 10 quarterback last week. He attempted 46 passes and he supplied not Brenton Strange with 11 catches, but Brian Thomas with all those catches.
I would say Brian Thomas supplied Mac Jones.
I mean, Mac Jones threw for 300 yards. Mac Jones did what you're supposed to do when you get a chance. Don't come in and be a Desmond Ridder dink dunk fest. Just chuck it. Winston's done this for years. Flacco's done it. Come in and show another team. Like Mac Jones
is playing for a job.
Show another team that you could maybe be a starter someday.
Yeah, I could easily
not impossible.
see if Mac Jones goes the rest of the season with some good performances, I can easily see him getting one of these starting jobs for a team that drafts a quarterback. You know, that type of situation where you're like, come in and play, and it'll probably end up going more the Drew Lock route, but
yep.
He's got something to play for. There's actually a handful of really good pickups. The Atlanta Falcons, they've got 13 sacks over the last 3 games. They play the Giants and their 10th string quarterback, I believe. Is it going to be Tim Boyle? I don't know.
You never know. They pick them out of a hat right before the game.
And the Rams defense, sometimes they're really hot. And the Jets, while their offense has been going, they've actually given up a lot of fantasy points. So they're not the worst option either.
Well, that's going to dovetail poorly into this next segment.
Full stream ahead.
Because my streaming quarterback is Aaron Rodgers against the Rams. Following up on difference makers, the Rams defense is 28th against quarterbacks over the last 6 weeks, 31st against wideouts. There's a lot of risk there for me. I think there will be a lot of points scored in that game. So I think Aaron Rodgers is actually a streamable option.
How interesting. My streamer is Matthew Stafford on the other side because of pretty much everything you're saying. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. So maybe don't play the Rams defense. These two teams have been in some shootouts recently. Both these quarterbacks have put up a lot of yards recently. And if you look at the Jets defense, the Jets pass defense ranks 30th versus quarterbacks over the last 8 weeks. And it's not just the high-end guys. It's literally everybody. Russell Wilson was the quarterback 5. Anthony Richardson was the quarterback 5. Tua was the quarterback 4. Mac Jones last week, quarterback 8. Everything we're talking about, Matthew Stafford feels very safe for the streaming options this week.
Sometimes these shows...
Who would you rather start between those two? Stafford and Rodgers are both there.
Rodgers.
Just because he's at home or...
Yeah, I mean, both are fine. Both are in the exact same category. Both could suck and both could be great. But Rodgers has got a couple good weeks in a row, and, you know, it's tight. It's close. Flip a coin. Don't play either. I mean, we're not in a position here, by the way. This waiver show feels weird to me. In some regards, I know we got to do it, and there might be a nugget here or there. Most people have got players to play this week.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why you're
true.
here. I mean, David Montgomery goes out. You're probably got a guy on your bench that's better than most of the guys you're picking up. Maybe you end up able to grab a Spears or grab a Ford, and that would be awesome. Ford would be outstanding. But if not, this is maybe you're playing defense more than you're playing offense in some of these leagues.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're playing defense, it's because someone else needs to be able to play offense. But
yeah, you're right.
To reiterate what you're saying, if Jahmyr Gibbs is on the waiver wire,
yeah, pick him up.
Full spin.
Falcon, will you bring those in here real quick because we're going to close the show out. I forgot we had to show these up, but we do have some sweet swag. If you notice, there's a new custom helmet on the center of our table, and the folks at Green Gridiron hooked us up with that. We have mini helmets for the first time. These have been requested for years. So if you want mini helmets, Jason's got the white one. I got the black one. They're all on shopballers.com, and we'd love to get them out to you so you can display them. They'd go nice right next to like a championship trophy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right under like a championship ring.
Yeah,
you can put the display, stack the cases.
It's not a bad idea. Thanks for joining us. Back tomorrow with the two of us and maybe Mike.
Or a bear.
We'll find out. Catch you then.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.